a lot of questions that we have received today in the chat box, Gerd, is about self-talking. So if you could please provide some comments on that.
Yes. I once worked with a 23-year-old woman who recited the entire dialogue of the first 3 Star Wars movies. And that's all she talked about all day long. That was her self-stimulating, repetitious behavior. Even the intonations of the characters. She knew exactly how to make the voices, the noises. It was incredible to see. So what did I suggest? Everybody working with this woman, brush up on your Star Wars movies. And we created a focus room for her where everybody walked in the room with a Star Wars costume. One person was dressed as Darth Vader, one was, you name it, everybody could pick there. And we walked into the focus room with her, and all we did, join her in talking about Star Wars. Okay? Wow. And we acknowledge that that's what she does. We love you for it. We can't hear enough of it. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, great. And yes, and Yoda did this, and then what happened is over time, and this is where I said earlier, some repetitious behaviors change over time and become social interactive activities. What we did over time, we actually infused in the Star Wars story a character that was never in the movie, right? So we try to build and expand on her stim, and she accepted it. Wow. And she was actually interested in a character that she never saw in the movie. Oh, what does this man do, right? So eventually what happened with a completely repetitive talk about the same dialogue all day long, we ended up with a beautiful conversation about the movies and the characters. But that took 6 months. Okay, but this is just an example of, now there is also a big difference between verbal stims and physical stims. So physical stims is anything a child does with their body, gestures, lining up objects. Verbal stims are basically scripting, endless repetitions of questions, recitations of certain texts, of certain movie parts, of video clips. So in terms, when it comes to parallel play, or when it comes to entering the person's or the child's world, okay, in the physical stims, we basically try to imitate as precisely as we can the physical gestures or the physical movement that the child does. And of course, there are exceptions. I had a girl who just spun around on the spot in a very high speed. If I turn around twice, I fall over, I get so dizzy, I cannot do it. I can literally not imitate that movement. So what did I do? I just swung my arms left and right. I swung my arms behind me. So I had my arms spin in ways that I knew how to do. It's not so much whether I was exactly able to duplicate her movements. It was, how did I feel inside when I did it? And that's what children are most sensitive to. Okay? And with verbal stims, yes, the parallel play and repeating some of the words or some of the sounds can be very effective, but it is easier to build and expand on the dialogue that is done, so it can be joined or parallel played in a more conversational way, right? Which eventually then also the child is letting go of the more rigid controlling way of talking, and they become more flexible and move more towards a normal conversation, right? So most self-stimulating repetitious behavior, whether they're physical or verbal, over time, they really change into quite wonderful activities where you would not know looking back that the behavior used to be self-stimulating. You know, I have seen this hundreds and hundreds of times.
Wow.
And it is totally up to the child. They are the one decide when they are ready to be less controlling, when they are ready to be more flexible, when they are ready to trust you more. You cannot force it. It has to come from the child.